Trekland HQ, I believe. Yes. And we are live. Guess whose soggy Nacelles just turned 55 today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 276, with me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemechek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Thanks again for your patience. Got some surprises coming today. Again, it's another one of those weeks where everything feels so, I don't want to say humdrum. Dare we ever start feeling like Star Trek life is settled down into normalcy, especially during the run of Lower Decks first runs. But today I want to talk about, if you haven't guessed it, an anniversary that you might have missed that's kind of just been going on in the background that is so awesome. But first off, if you are just joining us for the first time here on Tuesday, welcome. So glad you found us here. This is show 276. I may have missed 5 or 6 weeks since we debuted back in 2017. And the show has evolved a little bit, but we're still here talking. And we've always talked with everybody in the chat. If you haven't figured it out yet, we've got a great chat group, a great community going. The TTLers are doing just fine. So introduce yourself, say where you're from. Now, here's the thing. I will get around to the chat in a minute. I'm not streaming back and forth. Drives the Twitchers crazy. But I will get to the chat after I go through my little soapbox topic today. And then we hit the Parrot Analytics. And I've also got a surprise before we take our midway break. In fact, it just came in the mail, and I'm going to go with it today because that's the kind of day it is. Yeah. So thanks for joining us here. Of course, what I mean when I say, guess whose Saggy Nacelles just turned 55, we are, of course, talking about the venerable, the great old AMT model kit for the USS Enterprise. Now, you don't think of it that way because you think, oh, how long the pocketbooks license went with Star Trek and how long we got the Spock helmet now. But even apart from that, you've got the book, you had the Whitman contract. You had Ballantine and Banham's book contract with Star Trek. You think about really some of the licensed items from the actual 60s, whether they were crap or not. But really, the real first deal back in the baby days of licensing, when there was no licensing department, somebody in marketing or sales or something, some lawyer somewhere just did a deal somewhere and they were so off the cuff. And that's the history and the story of the AMT. Now, here's the thing. AMT is actually, this is forgotten unless you're a model builder or you actually just love history. AMT was simply aluminum model toys. They were in Michigan. And now they did aluminum models. They did metal. But eventually, when the plastic model kit craze came in, in the 50s and especially the 60s, what was the big model kit? Well, it was cars and hot rods and all that kind of thing. Then, to kind of spruce up the bit, there was model railroad model building too. And, model airplanes. All of that was in there. But the hot seller for the teenage boys was the model car kits. And then, what happens in the mid-60s? No, before Star Trek. Before Star Trek, you had the monster craze. You had the bubblegum cards. You had the Munsters and the Addams Family. You had the creepy monster models and the creepy monster coupes cars. And yes, on wacky races, you had number car two, the creepy coupe, with the token mid-60s monsters left over. That was the big seller. AMTs they were doing scale cars and then, hot rod custom and goofy crossover monsters, the whole thing. And then monster figurines was a big deal with the Universals. All of that was big. And in the middle of all that, and we need to get down to the story of this because at one point, of course, Stephen Whitfield, whose real name was Stephen Poe, but his mom had remarried and his stepfather's dad was named Whitfield. And he was trying to impress his dad. And you know where this is going, right? He wrangled himself a deal to do, a little book you may have heard of. A little book you may have heard of called The Making of Star Trek, which was all we had for years. before the tech manual, and we were lucky to have this, and we were amazingly so unaware of what a pioneer this was. Now, talked about this book here and on good old Nonfiction Friday. Today we're not talking about the book, but Steve Whitfield got his foot in the door to write this book because of the deal that happened with AMT offering to be the knight in shining armor that rode to the rescue of poor, beleaguered little Desilu, under-budgeted Star Trek, who so desperately wanted a shuttlecraft model. Now, if you had a shuttlecraft, you needed the live one exterior, by all rights, the one they could stand around because it was a shuttlecraft and looked cool. The interior, which as we all famously know, did not match. The interior was much shorter and bigger than the exterior. And then you need the miniature model if you want to be really cool and have the thing flying in space. How do you fake that? And then in their case, they had to build a model hangar. That was a lot of money. And at least as far as the main set goes, the interior and the exterior, AMT funded that totally in return for the rights to do, yes, the model kit, which famously didn't happen until later on. You had the Enterprise and then the Klingon battle cruiser, only later on dubbed the fan name D7, growing out of the set joke, which got fostered and retold and then saved by fandom. And then finally canonized by boy fan Ron Moore when he had the keys and was co-writing Trials and Tribulations. Not until then did we officially call it the D7, although all the cool kids called it the D7. Point here is that legacy of model kits that started so simply and grew actually to 29 different iterations. Now, in the glory 70s when Star Trek exploded, so did the AMT model kit line. The exploration set with the little bit, you didn't realize they were little bitty till you built them, and if you weren't 5 years old, you realized, boy, that phaser seems small. But they were so cool when you couldn't buy anything else, or you couldn't by the late 70s afford to buy one of the $300 or $400 or $500 kits in the 70s from one of the prop people who typically got overwhelmed and couldn't fulfill their orders and famously got a black eye over it. And hence the need for licensing to step in and find the technology to eventually get us high-end props, eventually not so high-end props, and now mass market, Playmates, and now all the toys we can get so easily, the props that are 3D. And then now people are 3D printing their own. But again, back in the early days, AMT took 55 years ago. Did I mention that? The whole bit about 55 is this is the 55th anniversary. Actually, it was in June. They released model kit number 921. There's an awesome, we're gonna post the picture. Hey, YouTubers, you'll see it. The brochure, sales brochure for the fall. Actually, it was a week after the Man Trap aired. Mid-September 1966, AMT releases their coming model sales brochure on paper, because this was before 2000. And here's all their standard lineup of cars and custom hot rods and scale cars. And in the middle, lo and behold, there's this thing that's whitish, and it's all about cigar pod looking things and a sphere and a flat disc, and it's labeled. You'll love this. It's totally labeled. This is almost as good as airbrushing Spock's ears round so not to offend anybody when they're trying to sell the series in the NBC sales brochure. Almost as good as that. Here's AMT selling their model kit barely a week after the show had aired, and I'm sure it had to be printed before that by the time it hit the mail. It's only labeled number 921, Spaceship. No Enterprise. No Star Trek as seen on NBC TV coming this fall, the hot new side. No, nothing. So you're sending it out to hobby shops and warehousers and distributors, and it's Spaceship. But you know who had the last laugh? By the time a year had passed, the next June it was released, just after the first season had ended. And by the time it was released, that little model kit number 921, Spaceship, had sold 1 million copies. No Dracula model, no creepy coupe monster hot rod, no new Mustang, no new Corvette. No, this little ship that very quickly got a name. I will tell you in the sales brochures. I haven't seen that, but it displaced all the top selling, car and monster models at the time. And from then on, the Enterprise kit sold huge in those baby days of Star Trek and fandom. There weren't even fanzines yet, much less anybody that knew about them. You couldn't see anything. Name something you would want from a show? What, a lunchbox? Lunchboxes can. We should get into this. We should get back to the review of the toys that made us. And some of this ground has been covered there. And by the way, I want to say, putting this back on my radar, Glenn E. Swanson, who is writing his Cult TV Man. It's a store, it's a website, it's a blog, it's a Facebook page. You can go find a lot of great pictures. He's been putting together, history. Now, number one question I saw when I got into these and started reading the facts and collecting some numbers and figures in Model Kit 921, otherwise unknown, whose name shall remain anonymous, that he had been collecting facts and figures as well as some other fans. First question was, why didn't we have a 50th anniversary for the inveterate old Enterprise model kit, which has still been in print? It was dicey there in the aughts. We thought computers were going to run everything, and 3D printing. But thank you, Round 2 has bought the rights. You can still buy your kit, and it's upgraded. It's upgraded. Why do I say Saggy Nacelles? Talk to any kid in the 60s and 70s who tried to build the original AMT kit. Even after 2 or 3 revisions, and your Nacelles pylons, it was just hard to get those pylons to hang in the secondary hull, whether you had the slot with the tab that went through that was supposed to brace it, or it was a recessed pocket with the tab in the recessed pocket. Whatever it was, we all suffered from the tragedy of the Saggy Nacelles. Well, you did if you were cool enough to know they were Nacelles. If you weren't, you just had saggy warp engines. How many of you suffered through the tragedy of the saggy warp nacelles, the saggy warp engines? Look, that's what is so amazing. You don't sell millions and millions and millions of that kit over 20 and 30. It's still in print. Now, thankfully, there have been tweaks to the original model in the AMT line time. The original AMT models came with a lighting kit. I know. If you ever look at the bottom of your saucer, and first off, I'm apologizing for not having cool props. I built at least 2 of the AMTs. First one, just out of the box, threw it together like a kid. Yahoo, throw the decals on. Of course, I was a rerun baby. I was not there for the first years and years and years of the original kit in the original box art. Look, friends and neighbors, the original AMT Enterprise model kit and all the whole line, but especially the original old girl, has been studied now and detailed and analyzed as from everything from the box art and the special offer eventually for that Enterprise satin jacket, which again was another attempt at some kind of merchandising, but you could only get it with the coupon on the side of the model box. Yeah. All the way through the huge revolutionary decal. Originally, you got decals just for the Enterprise, and the NCC 1701 for the saucers were pre-curved for you. But then a few years in, by my time, by the 70s, by the boom that was letting millions more kits be sold and upgrades and other, then you got your K7 station, then you got your Romulan vertebrae, then you got your Enterprise bridge model, which you had to buy 2 because it didn't give you a full bridge. So, of course, you had to buy 2 boxes and put in the missing bridge sections, right? I'm gonna post some more with you because I built my second one and spent a lot more time with it. It was not just to glue together and throw it out there. I painted my second one. What I really did was, after the success of the AMT kit, Estes flying model rockets, which either had just cool looking funky 60s, 70s flying rocket designs, or they actually did some. I built a Mercury Titan 2, Mercury Redstone. Which one of the launch did I buy? Mercury Atlas. I built a Mercury Atlas flying model rocket where they actually took the time to scale as much as possible in the balsa wood and paper technology of flying model rockets, and eventually some plastic pieces. But I built scale flying model rockets even, aside from plastic. But I never wanted to fly it because you spent all that time, and the first time you had your parachute didn't fully deploy, or you had a rough landing, and all that little wooden balsa work detail on the escape tower was busted, and you'd spin on or the fins on the first stage. I built, when they bought the license, Estes Model Rockets bought a license to produce a Klingon battlecruiser and the Enterprise. Now, how does the Enterprise fly as a model rocket? You had to buy, and I have this, it's in storage. You had to build this long 4 or 5 foot tube to counterbalance the scale model Enterprise model. It was amazing. If you actually didn't just want to build your Enterprise model from dowel rods and plastic vacuum form and all that, if you actually wanted to fly it, silly boy, you put it on this adapter that actually had the engines in the bottom that sat on your launcher. Probably had to be reinforced. I never did this. I could not bear to risk that. And I knew they must have worked out the engineering, but the idea that your Enterprise fitted over this 4 or 5 foot tall launcher. Now, look, I know I've strayed from the AMT purity, but I got to tell you what this AMT model kits phenomenon shook up. It shook it up for Star Trek fandom and for licensing, and it shook up the model kit industry. What? It's not cars? I have my Enterprise flying. That's the one that I sanded. That's the one that I spray painted with scale paint. That's the one that we did the decals and made it look gorgeous. And that's the one that I entered back then in the State Fair model competition. That is the AMT model kit line that, no, not my Enterprise, but my bridge set was hyper detailed beyond. That's the bridge set where I took a soldering iron, a hot knife, and you get a Kirk, a Spock, and a Sulu figure. Well, I softened Sulu's legs and bent them so he could sit in his chair. Yes, I'm serious. So, that's me. I am the one who super detailed the inside of my Galileo and left the top removable. And yes, added the quarter rounds along the sides. The top removable and detailed the inside. Yes, I'm that guy. I'm the guy who cut the door and made the door slide back on a track. Oh, I used to build models, guys and gals and peeps. I did when I just lived in Slaughterville and had nothing else to do in a 3-channel world. Those days are long gone. No, I got the cred. I got the AMT model cred. And I had model kits to go back and build. I finally started stuff I'd had in storage for 20, 30 years. I finally, 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, when I opened the trunk, because I had so much stuff and needed to move it along to new homes. My 70s era Star Trek model kits went along. But for many years, I did take a picture. I had all the boxes, all these historians now working on the AMT line. I had the top model boxes stacked. I had them preserved. I did not do something with them until about 18 years ago. And no, I didn't throw them away. I got them a good home. Whether I sold them or found a good home, I don't know. But that's me. Everybody out there, how many people in our chat today have their own history with the AMT model kit line, starting with the Enterprise? You know, I mean, what's goofy is the goofiest turn, aside from having the expiration set be 3/4 size. I mean, there are obviously you're not super detailed. Obviously, the kits had variances, but AMT made a good faith effort over the years and occasionally tweaked. I mean, the Enterprise was the king of the line, but occasionally tweaked the models to improve them at times. Hey, they came out with a 3 set. You could get the Enterprise, the Klingon battlecruiser, and the Romulan bird of prey as a 3 set, where each one was about that big. Hey, and don't forget that the AMC Enterprise is screen used. The AMT Enterprise is canon. And I'm not just talking about the built, assembled for the Constellation with someone who took a hacking iron and a soldering iron too and did it up. just like you would hack up and weatherize a model at home. Sure, there was the Constellation, but don't forget the little Enterprise that hung outside Lurie's window to look like it was actually orbiting K7 slowly, which was amazing. I was thrilled, thanks to Glenn Swanson's recent scholarship, that model still exists. It went back to AMT, and now it's at the Henry Ford Museum outside of Dearborn, Michigan. They have the K7 original orbiting Enterprise. That's the thing. The staff had cut the nacelles off and actually tried to go back and retrolight it. Anyway, the original plastic nacelle caps are done. A few other things. The decals long ago wore off, and it was decaled. You couldn't tell it from the side, from that distance out the window, but it was. And then finally, the footage, didn't realize, I knew this and I'd forgotten it. The footage of the Doomsday Machine, of the Constellation from afar, was reused as the Excalibur, the dead Excalibur, for just a second or two in the Ultimate Computer. In the original era, the remasters have, done away with all reused footage. So it's not there. And no, that's the 18-inch model. That's not Cloud Minders. That's with Requiem for Methuselah. So that's not an AMT model, but you got to remember the AMT model was even on camera at times. It's a cool thing revisited back in the days when Gary Hetzler would not let them use CGI on DS9 because it wasn't up to his level of quality. And so all 90%, 95% of the Dominion War battles the last 3 or 4 years of DS9 were model kits, the Kit Bash Navy. And a lot of them were original AMTs, especially the Klingons. You know the story that it's not the AMT, but the original Hallmark bird of prey was perfect scale to be a bird of prey docked at the actual large 10, 11-foot DS9 model. And they would shoot with it docked. So that avoided a whole set of passes and lighting passes and all of that. But the world of the interchange of licensings models and the actual show and visual effects is a long storied one too. But yeah, I just want to say my hat's off to Glenn. My hat is off to Glenn Swanson and Cult TV Man and his hobby show for researching these articles, giving us this news, also the news. Again, maybe at some point we'll hear the mystery of why there wasn't a 50th anniversary celebrated in 2017. But yay for the 55th. I'll take it. It's a 55th. Look, they've got some freebies. If you go to the websites, you can get, they commissioned a 20 by 30 foot poster, high-res digital, that it's not a seller's. They didn't sell it as a finished poster. You are free to download it and go find a print shop and do that. And they've got recommendations to do that now that we can do anything. But they have stickers. They have AMT special 55th anniversary of the Enterprise model kit stickers and a logo that they commissioned that's free for fandom. They didn't want to get into a license selling situation. But you can sure do that. Round 2 LLC, who owns the current AMT license, they gave permission to use the AMT logo and all of that on the stickers, on the poster. It's really amazing. If you print it out full size, it's a high-res 20 by 30 poster, and you can get it done. So that's one way that they're celebrating now. But if you go check the Instagram, go check the Facebook, check out Cult TV Man. There's 5 or 6 or 7, including the photo of Dee and Carolyn, DeForest Kelly and his wife Carolyn. Obviously a staged photo to publicize the model kit, if not by Desilu, but at least by AMT. Good old Dee was the Jonathan of that cast. He was the mix of who's the highest up in the ranking, who will do, he's the Armin of that cast. He's the who will do all these goofy kind of things and do it with some grace and be comfortable in his skin doing it and not think that he's not getting paid enough or he wouldn't be caught dead doing it. There's a wonderful picture of Dee and Carolyn that's out there now. I had not seen it until the last few weeks. With the model kit, putting them with the box strewn out and the parts, and it's not quite the goofy look at the gun upside down gag shot from Spectre the Gun, but it's in that realm. He's at home, they're in their civvies. It's a very, very sweet picture. It's got kind of mid-late 60s black and white focus quality to it. But it's another reminder of where the kit was. How thrilled was the show that it sold a million? Well, licensing wasn't a thing then. It was really more a thrill for AMT than it was for the show. Gene Roddenberry loved the news, of course. Gene, who was trying to promote the show in any way possible, they just didn't know how many tires and batteries and beers and deodorant kits those 12 and 14, 15-year-old boys were going to go buy who were buying the model kit. If they could last another 10 years, much less another 5 years, 5-year mission, they might actually have a hit based on the barometer just of how the model kit sold. By the time of the 70s, though, this is another factoid that Glenn has managed to put together in some of these essays, these little nuggets, however you come to it, whether you go back to the website or you find them broken up as pieces on Facebook. Apparently, AMT did some research, at least by the 70s boom, and found out that, are you ready for this? About a quarter of the model kit buyers were young girls. So, yes, no fangirls till anime. Get out of here. Talk to anybody from the era and they will tell you that's goofy. But you especially think, oh, model kit's the domain of the guys. No. Lots and lots and lots of, I'm sure lots and lots of girls were also buying the Mr. Spock shooting at the alien snake model kit, which is, it's Spock shooting at something instead of trying to neck pinch it and study it and take a sample. They were trying to buy into that dynamic, the whole monster and goofy car, the offbeat end of the model building spectrum of the 60s. And, that hung around too. The Mr. Spock alien figurine actually shooting an alien creature. We don't talk too much about science ethos when we talk about that model, but it's just cool that most of the AMT line were the model kits. And of course, the AMT model kit line expanded. They were thrilled to jump up with a lot of the movie shows. The movie ships were just movies, one and done, 2 hours. Who knew what that would support? Now, Next Generations, of course, the Enterprise D, which I do still have it in an open box. The Enterprise D and the Romulan Warbird, and eventually going down the line, eventually, finally, the Klingon Bird of Prey. Some of the standard ships in the hard 3D, anachronistic pre-CGI days, there was no way they were going to keep up once they started churning ships out. But some of the basic ships at the time, the Ferengi, I think, had a model kit because, the Ferengis were going to be the big bads. So the AMT line lived and prospered, kind of rose and fall with the model kit industry in general. And when everything went online and CG, by the late 90s and the aughts and kids were playing video games, who's going to build models? Well, it turns out lots of people are building models and lots of people are having kids, and they're not about to let that hobby die. So good on them. And yes, good on Round 2, Polar Lights back in, for keeping the license going. The Enterprise model is still in print. It is still on store shelves. It is still on Amazon digital shelves. It's been tweaked. Those saggy nacelles have been helped along a little bit. The lighting kit went away for simplicity's sake and cost factor back in the 60s. I had no idea there'd been a lighting kit. You can see the artifacts and the fossilized remains of the dimples on the bottom that used to baffle me were actually there for the grain of wheat bulbs. But guess what? Lighting is back as a factor now, which you can buy. You can find fans who will customize your ship models for you. You can find, they've got a Tholian web model that is in the glowy plastic. So your Enterprise 2 can phase in and out. And, even as an interaction with the show Beyond on Camera, that famous second season list of starships that Dorothy and Bob Justman finalized, that has been the foundation for so much fan activity and canon and guesstimating and debating and where's the Defiant? Well, it was the third season. Defiant came about, thank you, Judy Burns, from a whole different mindset. The original memo did not have the Defiant on it. Which cast? Do we use it as canon then, since it didn't have the Defiant for third season? And then, of course, you got the Franz Joseph numbering, later to be debunked by Greg Jeans, right? The Mystery of John Doe Starship, and trying to take the Starship status board from the starbase of first season original series and assign numbers to the starships then, to all the Constitution class starships. And that became the cool kids numbering system, not so much the Franz Joseph. But then again, when AMT, by the 70s, and there's a whole archaeology, the long box 2, the short box 1. You can get into the fandom and the hobby and the history of the Enterprise model kit and get into all the weeds and details. But yes, I never saw the original decal sheet. It was a revelation to me. My decal era is with all 12 of the starship names and the numbers. The numbers you can flip out and change. Now, decals are such a key part of this saga, going back to, remember, the Doomsday Machine, the whole reason the Constellation's mind-boggling NCC number, if the Enterprise is 1701, and it's not so much pounded into your head then, but it's listed on one graphic that, of course, the high-res world here, the HD world has taken to run with by the time of the tech manual and the Enterprise blueprints, and Franz Joseph Schnabel was calling it the Constitution class, whereas all the production, everything is just calls it Starship class, the way it is on the plaque in the bridge alcove. If I'm getting in the weeds here, if I'm going down the line of the tech heads and the Starfleet yardsers, and so forgive me. But this is such a cool story that involves the circles of the model builders and also the business and the licensing side, and how all of that was a barometer on early Star Trek. And then today, in a meta sense, how that one little kit revolutionized the business. It revolutionized the way some, at least, the savvy people in Hollywood saw Star Trek, at least to a certain degree. It sure gave a new impetus to the way the show's creators from Gene on down, I'm sure Gene and Bob Justman and Matt Jeffries and anybody else paying attention, people in the Desilu sales office, were looking at the potential for the show. Of course, Dick Block and the people that syndicated the show in 69 and 70 and 71 were laughing all the way to the bank because they knew what that historic selling, biggest seller AMT kit ever, huge seller in the industry period, that made headlines in the in-house industry. I'd love to find some more of that kind of actual archaeology, archival, dates and numbers and all that. But it's no doubt that that's what it's. And look, most of all, over the years, look at the romance before the tech manual, before the prop kits, before buying uniforms, before all of that. What was the first piece of Star Trek you could bring home? Oh, for sure, way before DVDs and Blu-rays, and much less recording your own episodes with your own tape recorder eventually. No, way before all of that. The first piece of Star Trek you could hold in your hands and bring home was the good old Enterprise model kit. It's turning 55. Hats off to Glenn E. Swanson and things at culttvman.com. You can go over there. I'm not showing, I'm just letting the world know because I wasn't up to date with this. I just found out about this the last couple of weeks when I was struggling for a topic. Here was a beautiful one right in my face. And I guess I was not alone because, as I said, I had this idea a couple of weeks ago. So today, when you go to Dayton Ward's blog, The Fog of Ward, and see him talking about the 55th anniversary and Glenn Swanson's restoration and historical unearthing efforts, I'm not copying Dayton. I had this idea last week, as he probably did too. But that's what a groundswell is. I'm asking why we didn't celebrate the 50th. I'm just happy to be here with the 55th and all these items, the fun stuff that's coming along to help celebrate it too. So the cherry on top of all this is, for the last year or two, Glenn and this group, the fans, the modelers he's assembled through some of these Facebook groups and websites, are working on a history of the AMT Star Trek model kit line They got fans contributing, and I saw what Doug Drexler had contributed his pictures. I don't think I have a picture with me and my model. I've got models. I've got pictures of the state fair models. I've got pictures from our mini cons that our club in college threw and had an art display room, and some of my models are in there. Some are black and white and some are color. I got to dig that out. I didn't want to slow down today. I wanted to get this out there and let you know about the cool freebies and the awareness that we're celebrating this 55th, and also some of these historical factoids that, again, in one realm, in an overlapping realm, the impact that early Star Trek showed that there was something to this. There's a ticking time bomb of goodness here that's eventually going to come home to roost. And it only took about 4 or 5 years for the 70s explosion. And I say that 50, 40, 50 years later, look at the emotion that old fogies, model builders, much less their kids and grandkids, as we get back into model building as a hobby again, just like we've gotten into scrapbooking, just like tabletop gaming has come back from everything being video and CG. I mean, there's been a back to a hands, and through the pandemic, oh my God, a return to hands-on crafts and activities. And yes, plastic model building is in there, model building of all kinds. And it's perfect timing now, even more than maybe 2017, to look at the legacy of this little model kit and its long journey and its iterations. And just that line. You can get the re-release kit, came out for the 50th, not for its own anniversary, but everything was 50 Fever, right? In 2016. They retooled the, I keep wanting to say Polar Lights, but it's round two. Round two retweaked the kit big time and fixed it. New decal sheet. You didn't have to use those Franz Joseph numbers if you didn't want to. Of course, you could cut the numbers apart and put anything together. Once people were aware of the Greg Jean Jane Doe numbers and the fact that that's what Bijo was using, and that's what eventually Michael Kuda used, and that's kind of the way canon archiving goes. What's the preponderance of evidence and facts and opinions? You could still cut the numbers up and do it. But yeah, lots of tweaking on the current issue. Or you know what? You can page through old Amazon and eBay and try to find some of these model kits from along the way. I know 5-6 years ago, they weren't attracting that much money value. You may want to not take your model kit out of the wrapper, just like it's an action figure. I've got a first edition Enterprise D model I'm going to sit on for a while, I think. But all my AMT boxes and that second bridged model I never put into the first, all of those have found good homes over the last years. And maybe that high def 20 by 30 poster you can download from AMT in round two and Cult, you can find the address. Maybe that and the stickers will find a good look. And let's wish bon voyage and all good things to that fan group that's working on a dedicated history of the Enterprise and all the AMT kits that were so revolutionary on the intellectual side, but just emotionally gave so many great hours of enjoyment to all the young kids, boys and girls, who glued those suckers together, played them to death, had to go back and buy 8 or 9 or 10 kits. That's really where the $1 million came from in the first year. They were built to be model kits, not toys. Where all of that came from, the early days of licensing, including that Viewmaster of Omega Glory, because that's the episode they were filming when the Viewmaster, we did a Trek Files on this. We have the correspondence. Nothing special to Omega Glory, Gek. It was just what was being shot at the time. And so the Viewmaster camera crew with their stereo cameras did that. And for an opening shot, what do? They take an AMT model kit and stage with it and do a photo for the front. For the front of the Viewmaster package for that Star Trek issue. The only Star Trek Viewmaster of the original series ever done, of course. There was an animated. Was it for Yesteryear? I think it was. They scored a little higher on the choice of episode there. But yeah, the ubiquitous AMT Enterprise. Happy 55. Happy birthday, and power to everybody who's working on proliferating the history that's out there right now, and these high-end books and the photos, and just the fan army that wrote in when they solicited and sent their stories and sent their photos. It's going to be awesome. And one more way that Star Trek has affected so many people and brought so much joy. Don't tell me about the negative side of Star Trek fandom. I know it's there. I just keep contending it's a sliver. When you get to the armchair fans that are buying the action figures and the books, and yes, the model kits then and now, you remember what the real breadth, the depth and breadth of Star Trek fandom is really about. And so many people will smile to this day when they come across a Star Trek model kit, much less, I'm sure, all these history pieces that are peppering all over the internet. I know I did a couple of weeks ago when I just stumbled across this. How was I not told? How did I not get the memo? Well, now I'm doing my part. So happy 55th to the good old girl herself. Not the original Enterprise, not even the second Enterprise, but just about the third Enterprise out there, and the one that certainly exists in the most copies, and the one maybe seen by the most eyeballs of all the most seen starship ever. That good old AMT Enterprise. Hey, if you've got a memory or story, of course, share it here in our chat. If you are watching us later on YouTube, please leave it in the comments there too. Hey, if you watch us live, within a day or two, this will be posted to YouTube. Take your best, come back and comment on the YouTube posting for Trekland Tuesdays Live. You are totally free to do that, you know. If you were here with us live, the chat goes away for YouTube. It's there for Facebook, but who archives on Facebook? So yeah, it's a cool thing. But please join us there too. And if you are on YouTube watching later, join us. Join us on Tuesdays Live when you can. As everybody who knows, though, if you are watching in the chat, whether you're a veteran or new, the Facebook folks are only seeing Facebook comments. The Twitchers and the YouTubers are seeing everybody's. Just so you know. Just so you know. Now, I am going to get around to talking about the chat here in a moment. I've got one more cool thing before we take a break. Look what came in the mail today. Yes, I believe. I'm going to be really surprised if it's not. Let's do an unannounced box opening, okay? Let's see what we've got here. I thought so. Oh, good for them. Good for them. Good for two people out in Trekland eventually. No, look, it is the Picard Season 2 Blu-ray set. Yay. And as the sticker says, there's over 90 minutes of exclusive special features. And for all you, yes, all you tech heads, all you ship pornistas, you know everything about the Stargazer. There's features on here about that. The amazing art team, the golden era reunion of art folks that made that happen. Yeah, it's coming October 4th. Okay, what, in the next week, right? Look, I can recycle my original promo. Yep, 3-disc set, wonderful artwork. You know, Picard Season 2 as a show had some ups and downs. There are definitely some amazing moments. You cannot deny that. And not just at the beginning and the end, all the way through. And there are so many, you may live by them, you may disown them, but there are so many wonderful freeze frame moments throughout this season involving everybody. So many cool moments. And you cannot knock that emotional ending with John Delancey and Patrick. And you can't get over the oh my God moment of Will Wheaton and Wesley Crusher's return and his new status. Spoilers. So yeah, the Picard Season 2 DVD and Blu-ray. I don't know if the steel sets have sold out or not, but it's out there. Has all the techie, you know, I could read the press release, but I'm not going to do that. You know, it's out officially. You can find it on Amazon for whatever the best deal you can get. But the other cool thing is, gang, over the next two months, I have 1 and 2 copies to give away. One of these will at least be part of the giveaways at our open house coming out in October. The open house date, our Portal 47 annual, this will be our 7th annual open house. It's up in the air because we're still pinning down our guest, but you will want to hang on the edge of your seat till you know. But among the things we always do at the open house is we throw open the doors and give you a typical guest night. Well, it's not typical because it's one of the best Star Trek backstage creators will be our guest. Hang on to see who's going to be announced here in the next couple of weeks. But know that we're going to have some cool giveaways like that Picard Season 2 set, which is otherwise available October 4th. All right. That's going to do it for right now. Hey, everybody. It's so great to be here. Things are happening. Number one, I'm going to be at YumaCon again, little YumaCon in Yuma, Arizona. I say little. It was over 1,000 folks before the pandemic. Last year, the comeback show had probably about a third of that, so they're looking to regrow there at the Yuma Arts Center. Fantastically, it's halfway between Phoenix and San Diego, and they actually get a lot of Phoenix and San Diego fans. So don't go knocking Yuma down there in the corner. They're right on the California-Arizona border, right along the Colorado River. It was an awesome show last year, and I'm looking forward to being back there this weekend, October 1st and 2nd. It's run by the city's Parks and Rec department, but they have a lot of fun. It's very innovative, a lot of creative people there. They have a lot of stuff for the kids. It's all good for the family up and down the line. I have been a little quiet the last couple of weeks. You may have noticed we'll have some news coming out here shortly about some future projects and plans. But for right now, yes, you know, the Trek Files. Boom. The Trek Files is up this week. We've got a return visit, part 2 of what we recorded live at STLV, a return visit from the incredible, the iconic, the awesome Andy Kindred. And she still has a few copies of her book, From Slavery to Star Trek, you can get at her website, FromSlaveryToStarTrek.com. I think it's with hyphens. You can get one signed. She has a few of the copies she had at Vegas. This is the slim copy just about her Star Trek years. As you know, she has an incredible family history, historically black town, founded post-Civil War in Texas. And then she has her incredible life in the radio industry, Star Trek, first generation, as Gene Coon's assistant, and then in the civil rights cycles of Los Angeles of the 60s, before she moved to Australia for an incredible life as storyteller there, and a rights activist for the Aboriginal groups in Australia these last 40, 50 years. And now she's a TED talker. Awesome force of nature. What incredible. So glad to have her at Vegas. And a lot of you that were there at Vegas, we had the hour finally on stage that I wanted to do 5 years ago. We got that done. And yes, we got her for a couple of Trek Files. That's up right now. You can go over on Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts. But the Facebook is the only place you can get our documents of the week. And of course, we're talking about Gene Coon as well as Andy again. So very excited for that. And I am very excited for next week's episode because we don't number sequentially. This is 276 of Trekland Tuesdays Live, but we have seasons. So season 9, episode 6 of the Trek Files next week is our 200th episode, and we have something special planned for that as well too. So be on the lookout for that. Know that you can catch me on Twitter at Larry Nemechek, everywhere else at Larry Nemechek's Trekland and such. You can catch me there. Instagram, YouTube, please like and subscribe when you're there. Instagram, follow, sure. Facebook, it's Larry's Trekland or Larry Nemechek's Trekland, depending where you are. Portal47.net if you enjoy this kind of attitude about Star Trek. If you like a mini-con all year long, if you have no idea how much Star Trek you have no idea about, come join the Portales. There's a lot of them in our chat too. And I also, of course, am going to thank our Portales once again. Yay. So yes, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Keith Rombach, Blaze K, Anne Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, Andrew Przymski, and Pranakasha Productions. Thank you all. And our TTL live wires on Patreon, Rusty Harold, Halbert Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and Casey Shafsky. Thank you all once again. We are looking, again, I keep promising this, we don't have big thunderclaps of change. We kind of get there eventually, and you've seen it already happening just this year alone. More is on the way. Just want to thank all of you all, and if you are leaving us right now for YouTube, join us live when you can on a Tuesday. And until then, hey, stay healthy, do all the things. Yes, even now, get your booster covariant shot. Better half did. I will in November when I'm allowed to. Because 2.5 years just isn't enough of being careful. Word to the wise. And it's flu season anyway. And you know what? Hey, they've got a shingles shot now. I mean, just take care of yourself, gang. I'm not going to say youth is wasted on the young, because the youth have a pretty good time. But we should all take better care of ourselves. It's been a hell of a ride these last 2 or 3 years, body-wise and brain-wise. And our psyches, both coming and going, deserve the best we can do for them, right? So yeah, be healthy, be woke, check your sources. The stuff is going to be flying big time the next few weeks. And of course, after all that, above all that, trek well, everybody. All right. Now, we're obviously here. Here we go. I've just got to find... We're back into that pattern of Parrot Analytics. I promised you Parrot Analytics of the company doing at least one version, at least for probably 12 years. And we've been following since happy 5th anniversary Discovery. Yes, right about 5 years. We've been following what's been up with it since Discovery, because it's one way of trying to measure in a time when the Nielsen's became moot because no one cared about commercials and ad rates. And streamers know that, and they love to keep those numbers secret and not do what happened for the first 60 years of TV, in America anyway, of everyone having their Nielsen ratings paraded around. And it was cool to celebrate your number 1 show, but did you really want to give up on your number 50 show, on your worst show? Ask poor little UPN about that during the Enterprise days. No. The Parrots are measuring what they call average demand expressions, a metric they use. They're using a metric they're deriving from online on the internet, whether it's fans or it's critics or it's studio processed. And that's everything: posts and retweets and memes and video and comments and threads and all that. And this week on the digital only side, yeah, Stranger Things is still up there at 82 times the popularity of the average show, the way Parrot measures it in the US in the last week. Except it's not the last week. I'm once again looking at the September 9th numbers here, because that's the last week they've posted. They've let at least 2 weeks go by without posting new numbers. Maybe there'll be some more up today. Maybe they're skipping every other week now. I do not know. Maybe they're having a hard time filling it since Phil went on vacation, and Jamie refuses to do that job anymore. I don't know what's going on at Parrot, but I know they haven't posted anything new since the last time we looked, which is why I wanted to go ahead and go over and look at the individual Star Treks. Lower Decks is running fresh shows. It should be spiking in popularity compared to not running fresh shows. And that's what's happening. Its overall number over a 30-day average, the last 30 days, its average is up to 15.7. Now, that means a high and a low are dragging up and down, and that's the average between them. The demand in the last 30 days is up 16%. Okay, yay, as measured by online activity and what people are talking about. That's what you expect with fresh shows dropping every week. And, of course, we'll have a new one tomorrow night. The overall trend line of 60 days is edging up about that much. And it's still more popular than 98% of every other animation show in the US over the last 30 days. But remember, their 30-day trend number is 15.7. Picard has not been dropping fresh. It's been out of it but there's been enough news around to keep it at 18.2 the last 30 days. Now it's a drop of 10% over 60, and it's down a little bit. That's where you see that it's not fresh. But a 30-day trend line of things on the upswing for Picard as they dribble out news. The news, we're still in the window caused by Star Trek Day. And those headlines, as muted as they were still some headlines. And then I look at Strange New Worlds. It's sitting at 19.5. Again, no new shows. It's a point ahead of Picard. I mean, what are you doing? These are trends. These are 30 and 60-day trends. That's down 13, almost 14%. Still more popular than 98%, 97% of everything in the action-adventure genre. And Discovery is sitting at 13.7% there for its 30-day trend line, down almost 8%. Still more popular than 98% of everything else in the drama genre. I love how the Star Treks are divided into the drama genre or the action-adventure genre or action-adventure. I love how they put them in different, and of course not animation. So, that's a relative thing. Did I just look at the wrong ones? No, I didn't just look at the wrong ones. No, we're good. Yeah, we're good. So that's, if this keeps up and we talk about how the different entries are doing, do those 60-day, whether they're dropping new shows or not, you're always going to skew higher if you've got fresh stuff to talk about. If there are new episodes in the middle of a season, obviously that's going to be a little bit of a spike. It's almost like looking at the things out of fresh airings to see how their relative popularity is. And that might not be too far off, Anyway, let's see what's up here. I want to, I was going to say also in the main show, we should hashtag. Let's just hashtag. If you post online, I don't think there's a hashtag coming out of AMT or Cult TV Man. Let's just hashtag Enterprise 55. What do you think? I think AMT gets lost if you have AMT Kit or something. I think it's too obscure for people. As Scott mentioned a while ago, who cares about the people that it goes right past? But I also like to see something that could create interest and inroads. There's a sliver of the mundane world that's ripe to join us, to come over to our side. There's maybe the armchair fan who might be just fandom adjacent if we just nudge them a little bit. So I like to have accessible hashtags and not just totally hocus pocus mumbo jumbo hashtags. But let's see. I'm going to back scroll. Christoph or somebody drop the marker here. And I'm going to go back to the beginning and see who all's with us today. Good Lord. We've got my audio issue was a cord cable. So I'm hoping that has not been an issue today. Oh, hi, Carl. Oh, John couldn't make it up either. Well, okay. Yes, I did miss you guys. I put a couple of posts up about missing everybody at FanX this year in Salt Lake. Oh, you had a Strange New Worlds transporter pad? Well, I'll see it next year, or I'll see the pictures. I haven't really got to scour the internet for the last week or two. I haven't really seen a lot of the DST pictures either. I saw some. Looked a little number poor there. Not surprised. What? Oh, the AMC Enterprise. Wow, really? Right alongside the Gremlin? Yeah. No, I'm serious. How many of you all built some Saggy Nacelle Enterprises in your day? I bet you all did. Oh, Christoph, what's going on? You're popping in and out 100 times. Your laptop and the hotel Wi-Fi don't agree. Sorry about that. Tish, you spoke French. Yes, absolutely. Hi, Dave. Good to see you again, Mr. Portale and supporter. Hey, Narda on the Outback. It's good to see you too. Here you go, Dr. Dave. I knew you did. could never get. Yeah, even if they didn't sag, the little bracing thing would let them kind of hang. They could. You had a Your nacelles were never as sharply in line as all the diagrams showed. Just was the way it happened. Hey, Adam. Yay, good to see you, man. I was going to mention Paul Newitt's name too, because he's still around. And if you were back in the day and you were one of the you didn't have to be a cool kid, just had to be the nerd kid who looked around and saw that a fan had put in, best practices assembly manuals for the Enterprise, and then for the Klingon battle cruiser, and for the, you name it. 3 or 4 more. Romulan Bird of Prey? I'm not sure. There you go, Scott. You built at least 2. The gray-green hull color. Now, I should have mentioned too, since the restoration of the 11-footer, the actual filming model at the Smithsonian, Gary Carr and some of the folks working on it did archaeological, restorational paint chip layers and saved. You've got the variations from pilot 1 to pilot 2 to the series to the redo for Trouble with Tribbles in the last half of the series, wound up being the last half of the series, and then the paint jobs done, especially the Mayarecki one in 91 that people were not happy with. So there was a lot of archaeological archiving and academic work, cataloging all of the archaeology of the model as they uncovered it and went through paint layers. With all the resources of Smithsonian, you talk about archaeology when they're going through some Native American artifact or some 1700s or, Aboriginal level, something from a native tribe, that kind of, or anywhere in the world, that kind of care was the way they excavated the levels of paint and all the details, the interior details of the Enterprise, and cataloged all this stuff and photographed it and preserved it for historians and model builders and fans to have. And that's all out there now. That's all out there and available. Justin, you had fun building one of them. You mean you had 6 kits, but only one was fun? See, that's awesome. This is what I mean. See, Sean, one of your kit is still in good shape. They're only just a little bit out of alignment. Well, we all tried, crazy glue was a nice revolution when it came along in the late 60s, early 70s for doing that. But still, but then you had to keep control of it. You had to take care of it. If you're a kid, you're rough on stuff anyway, unless you're a model builder and things go to a shelf. Did you guys ever have your models on a shelf and then the shelf collapse? That happened once or twice. Oh, everything, Charlotte. You've missed the best damn show in world history. And I'm sorry to say we didn't record. So it's gone. I'm just kidding. No, what are you saying here, Matt? The thing with the nacelles is, since they're slightly conical, they can look out of alignment from certain angles, even if they're spot on. This is true. And one of the things changed on the model was perfectly conical, cylindrical pylons to the ones that are, Nat Jeffries, they didn't have a lot of tools, but they could at least turn a lathe. And Richard Dayton could at least build to that slight taper. They're not a completely perfect cylinder. The front end is slightly smaller diameter than the back end, than the aft end, excuse me. The nacelle, the Bassard collector, is slightly smaller in diameter at the front than the aft end with the space restoration cowling. Yes. Yes, as long as the nacelles create a stable warp field, the mechanical alignment doesn't matter. Oh, I hope I unleashed some fun stuff here today. Although when you built your model, Sean, you spray painted the body white. I think watching Star Trek on black and white TV made me think, see, this is the debate. This is why the work done at the Smithsonian Restoration was so key, because people argued we had 60s and 70s even if you had the original NBC run, you had crazy color TV you had to hand adjust. And by the time you got the 70s and 80s, you had those horrible washed out local station prints that were being shown. That's why the DVD Blu-ray restoration was so revolutionary, if nothing else, if you were a model builder. And that's why the restoration was so revolutionary. We had years and years and years people thinking the ship hull was that robin's egg blue. And that was one of the iterations of the box cover for the model kit was hued box blue. And of course, a lot of kids would get the box and paint it like the box lid, and wound up with light robin's egg blue Enterprises, which was a little weird. Yes, absolutely, Matt. The original 60s model kits had a little grain of wheat bulbs, no LED. You had, your bulb was at least that big. So what do you do with that? Absolutely. You still have some Estes D engines in a drawer waiting for the right rocket to call them up, or to blow up, or to be a dud when you do use them. Sounds like a country song. My Saggy Wart Nacelles. Yes, Marina. I'm sure somewhere back in the drawers of his files, I'm sure Hank Thompson had a song. You, me, and my Saggy Wart Nacelles. I bet. You better believe it, Dave. Did I mention? I didn't do this. I have to cut this in. The best part of the Estes model rocket kit, though, note the time here, Scott. The best part of the Estes model rocket part kit was the decal sheet. It was the best decal sheet ever. It was just a hair off. It was just a hair smaller than the AMT kit for scale. But everybody in the know would buy an Estes decal sheet and use it on their AMT model. Because the AMT, the Estes kit was adapted. There was a groove in the bottom of the hull where you attached the launching rod to stabilize it for an actual launch. I never launched mine. I never saw video of mine. I'd love to see video of exactly how that worked. In fact, the decal sheet of the Estes model got so popular that Estes wised up and just sold them separately. You could get the Estes decal sheet separate, which existed nowhere else. They didn't do that with any other model kit. But yes, they might have done it for the Klingon, just thinking there'd be some residual, after effect. But no, the Estes model flying model kit decal sheet was so awesome with its authenticity, and it was pre-circled, so you didn't have to do it yourself with separate. Yeah, it was awesome. It was that may be the best part of all about the Estes model flying kit, as opposed to the AMT model kit of the Enterprise. Why, yes, Scott, I thank you. I just happened to have it when I was 17. Oh, Melanie, you're 65 and your nacelles are still in good shape. Thank you very much. You had the original set of all 3 AMCs. Yep. And maybe some bits and pieces in a box. And I think that's the mantra for half of fandom over 40. I think I've got the pieces in a box somewhere in a garage or somewhere. Oh, well, Justin, I can turn that around. I thought I was the only one who bent Sulu's legs. Okay, there's 2 of us. In the old days, I thought there were only 8 people who cared about what planet the Tellarites were from, or anybody else for that matter. I know better now, but I do know now that there are 2 of us who bent Sulu's little plastic bridge legs. Yeah, used to save every box. I have a memory. We had a outer closet. When we built an extra room, we built a family room on the front of our house. I say we, my mom and dad did. And at the side was a cedar closet, and there was an outer closet that was just a closet, and it had folding doors to get into it. And that became my hobby room, my model building hobby room, and we put shelves up in it. And I can still see my AMT model kit boxes stacked up there after I went to college, and then sat there for 20, 30 years till my dad passed. And I collected all of those. I didn't keep the bottoms, but I kept the box art tops, right? For a while, probably till about 10 years ago. But I did take pictures of all of them. I did photograph everything. Well, again, we all, brilliant minds think alike, Sean. Yeah, remember the three set? They were all supposed to be scaled. They were all supposed to be, the Enterprise was about that big, and then the Klingon, and yeah, I never did finish. I built the Enterprise. I never did finish the Klingon, the Romulan. I was going to. That's okay. You're on. You're long gone. They're long gone. But you might have the boxes. See how we're almost as crazy about the boxes as we are. They're just, that's how emotional and sentimentally attached to those things we are. It's like the great untold story of Star Trek in fandom and the merch and our hearts from way back when times were simpler and you couldn't do everything and get it online or play it digitally. Well, there you go. Good on you. Okay, Richard, you built loads of AMT models. Yep. Ooh, see, it's coming back, right? Two polarized enterprises in the 1/350th scale, both fully lit. Yes, indeed. There's that bit about building it for the model, but there's that thing about building it for your first model, or dads and kids, moms and kids. I shouldn't be sexist here. Grandparents and kids, adjacent. Just with a youth group in general, if you've got youth groups and you do something like building a kit, because it's the kind of thing you can do in a day or two, unless you're going to go all out and get into sanding seams and doing, scale paint and the whole bit. Yep, the three-headed alien snake with the phaser. Of course you did. Mm-hmm. And you had the three separate ships. I got you. Mm-hmm. The complete TOS DVD set with the original special effects, no CGI for me. Well, you know what they did, Matt, was they made it where you could toggle. Thank God. That was not Star Wars. It was not Lucas. You could toggle back and forth to this day, and you can play those, and you can watch the originals, or you can watch the CGs. Well, Jason, I'm sure as I get through it here, we'll have a few people try to tell you that. But you know what? To each their own. Nobody's gatekeeping on model building here. Building something. Well, a lot of people would build their Enterprise and they would letter it for another ship. A lot of people, if you read the box, build the whole fleet. Part of the reason for that decal sheet with all the ship names was so they wanted kids to go out and buy 12 model kits and put different decals on every ship and line them up on your wall or whatever. But I've seen people over the years experiment. Sometimes they took Paul Newitt's instructions. Sometimes they experiment with lighting. They would experiment with paints and colors and surfaces. So when you say little room for creativity, a lot of people experimented, either way different looks, or they just experimented to get kind of a certain look that they wanted, and they experimented, that way. And then you have what everybody did with their bridge models. And I made my little 3/4 set exploration set, the second one that I built. I made the hand phaser come off the pistol phaser. And yeah, I did a lot of working wonky stuff. I made the knob turn on the back. I made the knob turn on the hand phaser and the trigger to press. So there's I detailed the interior of the shuttlecraft. So a lot of people found ways to be creative or take it to the next level. The AMT models used to be cheaper than the Hallmark Enterprise Christmas ornaments. Oh, yeah. Well, that first one where they vastly underestimated the demand. I read somewhere years ago that the original Enterprise first Hallmark ornament, I don't know if it's still up there, but for what were they, $20-$30? And it went up to 300 and stayed because the demand was 8 times more than the production run. And then after that, they would amp up the production run, and nothing ever sold the way that first one did that first year. Hey, 57 Pool, coming in from Twitch. Yeah. Well, Saggy nacelles on your D and on your Voyager. Well, it's okay. You're a kid. You get to go from there, right? You get to come up from there. And yeah, they weren't toys. They were plastic models. Even a lot of them, you know, a lot of them they don't sell the model kit with the structural integrity field. I'm just saying. So a lot of kids found that out the hard way. And then you went back and bought your second model and put more into it and took better care of it. But the saggy nacelle thing was specifically the original Enterprise and the way those straight pylons attached to the secondary hull, and the fact that they, the fact that the nacelle, the pod, the warp engine was so long, and it's at the front where it's attached, right? So you always had the absolute sheer weight of the plastic to weigh it down. And sometimes it wasn't about wet cement letting it dry. It was just the fact that it was just bound to happen. It was really hard to do that. Uh-oh. Charlotte, it infuriates you that kids' toys are still separated into boys and girls. Friend was sharing a cute little tent she got for her daughter. It's outer space themed. She had to find it in the boys section because everything in the girls section was pink. Absolutely. You can have pink outer space and not have it be Barbieized either. Sometimes you just like pink. But that doesn't have to, I think there's pink nebulas out there. People who think there is nothing pink in space should look around and realize there is the Mutara Nebula. I always love that line. There is the Mutara Nebula. No, there isn't, Spock. There is the Mutara. There is the Mutara Nebula. Alan, hey man. You just got in from Dallas, Texas, and boy, are your arms tired. Boy, are your pylons sagging. And hey, Galen, when you were in your early years to teens, you built. And look at you now. You're here with us on Tuesday Live. We have a pretty eclectic mix, I would say, not just globally, but among the sexes. My audience tends to be on a lot of things when they have analytics for pods and pages. It's about 2/3 to 1/3, but hey, I'm all about having everybody. Now what is this? Nathaniel, your son bought and built the D'Deridex, the Romulan warbird, the TNG first warbird. Yeah, it turned out great. Yeah, well, the technology of model kit building has gotten better too, like everything else. When there is a lighting kit, it's LEDs and those micro bulbs and things. You're not having to deal with grain of wheat bulbs in a certain minimum size, right? Oh. As for the current Polar Lights versions, they look better and sharper than the ships put out by Eaglemoss. Well, they are a different critter. A model kit is a model kit that is partly their plastic and molding and tooling, which is a big chunk of it, but then it's your assembly. And then your skill set with sanding and puttying and painting and looking at reference material and applying it versus Eaglemoss is a one and done. They got to find a way to mass produce the same thing, sometimes in limited numbers that makes sense. And so the detail, they can blow up the detail for something is going to be really popular or one of the bigger scale ships. That's way more of a shooting match. And those are going to be stacked up in boxes versus these model kits. They proliferate, but there's not near as the same number of model kits as there are actual sets in the Eaglemoss business model, Alan, what's going on? Oh, we're very sorry. Oh, 21. So sorry, Alan, but you had her for, wow, that's amazing. You had her for far longer than we had dear Schneider here with us. We just had Schneider for 15 years. So you got memories and you've got the photos. So, but thanks for sharing. Thanks for letting us know too. And hi, Rose. Top chat. Good to see you too, Rose. Yay. Starship Enterprise pot pipe. I've never seen one, but I'm sure they're out there. You talking about the Estes with the long? Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. Yes, I would too, Scott. Everybody share the pics you have. I don't know if it's, I think the deadline for the formal project that Glenn Swanson was heading up is done, but you never know. But yeah, get them online and have them ready for when that cycles around for the publicity around those books. But show them now. We're celebrating the 55th anniversary of the Enterprise model kit from AMT now. It was actually in June. So this has been a slow fuse burning. It's certainly still lit. Hey, it looks like Dayton and I are both still talking about it. So there you go. Yeah, and hashtag. Let's just hashtag Enterprise 55. Enterprise 55. Dave. See, there you go. Model building made your love of the series much more tangible. Again, yes, in the early days, the model kit was about the only way you could interact with the show in real time. Tangibly, as you say. Yeah. Best bong ever. Space weed. Narda. Well, fortunately, I think you've been able to make up your fandom since then. And you know what? They're still out there. I don't know what they cost to get down to import or get into the outback where you are, but they're still there. You know, you never get too old to learn, they say. You haven't heard Old Fogey in years? Well, 57, you just need to get out and circulate a little more. You've been hanging out with too many old fogies who won't use the term, apparently. This is what I say, Matt. It's amazing how toxic fandom goes away when you get live face-to-face with people. Gosh, what a concept. Like, before we had online fandom, and all fandom was either letter, it was either paper and stamps, or it was live. What other kind of fandom did you have? And I remember now what we'd call toxic fandom. There were some abusive personalities in the like the Interstat letterzine days. But there you go. And yes, we figured it out, Melanie. If you've told us before, you're an original flower child. Yes. Zahir. Well, you know, Zahir, you're gonna have to get a Facebook group organized for that, apparently. The limited edition 25th anniversary TNG Pez dispensers? Heck yes. Okay, there you go. I expect to see some scholarship on that very soon, Zahir. We got to get that before the year is out. Come on. Can you get Pez interested in relicensing those? Yep. A box with a barcode. Come on, Matt. A lot of people are excited. Now, what are you saying here, Jason? Is this my first collectible episode? Hopefully not the last. Well, you know, I tend to stick with, for one thing, there's so many people talking about merch and all of that and collectibles. They're out there. It's like, what am I going to add to that? It's either I wanted to jump in on this because I feel like this whole anniversary celebration has been under the radar, and I wanted to boost the signal big time. So hopefully that'll be something. Apparently, in his own way with his blog, very popular blog, I guess Dayton had the same idea, which is funny. But, you know, I tend to stick with just the way Portal 47 is. You can talk to any of the Portales on a roundtable. We don't get into merchandise and collectibles big time. We keep it to about the shows and the backstage and the business side of the shows, the things that don't get a lot of attention up front or even later on. But they affect what we see on screen. And that is kind of the core. You know, we had this discussion once. Show me a Star Trek fan that's never seen Star Trek on screen. Is there a Star Trek fan out there that it came to Star Trek? This should be a project. This should be a campaign. Are there any Star Trek fans who came to Star Trek through something besides anything on a screen? Did you come to Star Trek because of the books or the comics or the cool action figures or model kits? Do you know anybody that this needs to be a new topic. Do you know anybody who came to Star Trek outside of the Star Trek, what it was built for. That would be interesting. Who's going to be captain of the USS Berkeley? Did I miss the setup for this? Hey, Rose, you're not alone. There is no 275 posted on YouTube. It's there on Facebook Live. We just had a little hiccup in the delivery system. Distractions for everybody at Trekland HQ this week, but 275 is going to be posted, as will this one. So no worries. No worries. Again, Zahir, I'm not sure. Did I miss a news release? You're being coy here about California cities. Oh, this is amazing. You've got a sealed Mike Huber. You've got a, hey, welcome. Mike, have you been with us on Tuesday before? This isn't your first time. And if it is, that's great. That's awesome. Welcome. And find people that even know what an erector set is, much less that there was an erector set. That must have been like the dying years of erector sets. 87, 88. When did, well, it wasn't Gilbert by then. I grew up playing with my older brother was 10 years old, and he had an erector set from the 50s. And I grew up playing with his erector set and building stuff. You know, it was good for robots. Robots and planes. Yeah, you love. Well, apparently you and enough people who force them to keep putting them on. Cool. Well, thank you. It's just a little unboxing thing. I don't think I invented it, but yay, there you go. Ship Pornistas, you're a Treknologist. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, Admiral. Mm-hmm. You were screaming when Wesley showed up. I was too. I had not spoiled out on anything of that finale. And the people I know worked on the show had preserved it for me. So that was cool. I mean, you know, if I'm going to be spoiled, I want to get paid for it. Yes, Marina, we're nailing it down. I'm into that late summer, early fall race to get the open house nailed down. Yay, 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 yay. Thank you, Scott. Here, you guys, in case you missed it, here is the link for Andy's book, Andrea Kindred's book. Andy Richardson, as speaking of Stephen Whitfield Poe, called her in The Making of Star Trek. Andy Richardson. More Andy Richardson Kindred, please. Yes, we've got at least one more coming. It's up today. It's up right now. You resemble that remark. Absolutely. Kyle, and part 2 coming soon? Oh, did I miss part 1, Kyle? Kyle, did I miss your first comments? Are these slightly out of order? Oh no. What was part 1? Or something I said. Oh, we've got the YouTube army. Everybody make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you tell all 4,700 of your friends on YouTube to go subscribe. We got to get those numbers up. Oh, well. Well then, Carl, if it's on a plaque, it must be accurate. It must be the truth if it's on a plaque. Oh, thank you, Scott. Here's an update, everybody. TTL 275 should be posted now. Yay. Aha, an actual question. Since before my son burned, yeah. Did you miss anything exciting on 275? It was an AMA. It was an American Medical Association, Rose. No, it was an Ask Me Anything, and I think we got into some fun places, a little bit of history. Yes. Hashtag Enterprise 55 sounds great. There you go. Oh, hey, Starfleet boy. Good deal. Good deal. Thank you for the marker, Carl. And there you go, Christoph. Carl was filling in for you since we were worried about your Wi-Fi at the hotel. And thank you also, 57. Now, what are you saying here, Scott? You remember walking around your house holding your glue drying nacelles in place for an hour. Couldn't you just have praying they wouldn't sag when you let them go? Actually had a harder time with the TMP era nacelles. Those were impossible. You know, it's the one kit that I built is still, I saw it in there. It's still sitting there, shrink wrap and everything. What, you didn't have like, you didn't set up boxes and bowls and glasses and foam blocks to like set them in place? You didn't have an automatic or some kind of artificial form for drying? Hey, Alan. My goodness, this is going to be too long to show in one piece, you know. On Saturday Night Live broadcast of the sketch, yes, the original one where Chevy was Spock and Belushi was Kirk. Oh, in the original script, he was supposed to say, Nielsen was a TV rating system that averaged TV viewership in the 20th century. It was later determined to be very inaccurate. The SNL producers decided to take the last sentence out because NBC did not want to anger AC Nielsen. That's funny. Saturday Night Live got censored. Once again, Star Trek is on the cusp of trying to show the truth, even when it's being parodied. I did not know that, Alan. Thank you. That's an awesome story. I bet that was in the Saturday Night Live, that original Saturday Night Live, was it? Book. And the the SNL Saturday and the SNL Enterprises all sagged. Yeah. Now, what are you saying here, Mike? You took an AMT 921 kit and painted it with glow-in-the-dark paint so it glowed light green under black light with glowing red nacelle caps. Declared it as the Defiant way before they sold the kit. A few models on a shelf, but you also suspend a few from your ceiling above a bookshelf and you had one drop. Eve. Yeah, I never was into the suspend. I say that. I know I had some things hanging from the ceiling. Did I try to hang in it? Boy, did I try to hang an Enterprise from the ceiling? I'll have to ask my, no, I can't ask my mom. I'll ask my little brother. If I ever had something hang. I feel like I did. And I didn't build planes enough to have it be a plane. I don't know that I ever built. I remember one year at Christmas, probably mom got me this highly detailed German Panzer tank model that was about this big and had a real rubbery tread that, oh my God, that took forever. And the machine gun ball turrets rotated, and the turret rotated and all of that. See, this is a different generation, but it's the same frustration. Fiddling and threading the fiber optics in the ENT, in the Enterprise and DS9 kits. All lit with an incandescent that did fail quickly. Matt, I can always count on you. Telluranius. No, it's actually Teller Prime, but thank you for your parents used to joke that all the boxes in your garage rafters were just boxes of boxes. Yes. Hey, Brian. Yes, boxes are important. Absolutely. We're into the boxes layer of the conversation. Yeah. Hey, I had depression parents. Come on. I don't mean little D depression. I mean Great Depression parents, especially my dad. You can never trust what's on the box when you unwrap a gift from your family. I know the feeling. Yes. Especially if it's something that doesn't obviously come in a box itself. Yes. Oh, see, I read this, Brian. I go, oh, I was so proud. My K7 was in a contest and I did it. And I was heartbroken because when we moved, I brought it with me and the arms broke. And I still need to do that. But I put a ton of time. I individually painted, the cones, the 3 pods with the cone, and it has that grid. I individually painted some silver and some gold. And did rub-on lettering that you didn't know this until Tribulations, when they looked at the film in high def again, that United Federation of Planets was actually around the top of the dome, and each one was K1, K2, K3, each pod, and the blinky lights. Yep. All right, what are you saying? Yes. Yeah. Or, you can take your toy and strip it and repaint it or paint over and get scale paints and do it. You absolutely can. Oh, you have the Estes Enterprise still in the box. Wait, it came in a bag, Brian, right? Are you talking about the AMT Enterprise? Or are you talking about the Estes flying? My Estes Enterprise came in a long bag. It had to because the tube for the launch came that way. The Klingon was much more aerodynamically normal stable and came in a much shorter. It had a launch tube too, but it was much shorter, I believe. I just remember the Klingon bag was a lot smaller than the Enterprise bag. Yes, the great pink Himalayan salt mine nebula. There is the Mutara Nebula. 55, it's a youngin. Exactly, Richie. And welcome to Tuesdays Live. Oh, Richie, please tell me you're a real Trek fan and you're not just trolling us. Please. Yes, thank you. Hashtag the starship is sagging. No, Kyle. See, we're trying to celebrate. You don't get to celebrate in the family until you walk in the door. We're just trying to get people to walk in the hashtag door. Once you're in, then you can post about you. See, that's like my title. My title has to be only the cool kids had a clue what we were talking about. Hello, Sophia. Good to hear from you from Portugal. You bought a model kit from Revel when Revel had the license. Yes, the reprint. Sophia, the thing with the model kit that's detailed, it's just like working a jigsaw puzzle. You just do one piece at a time. And it didn't cost you a dime. No, that's another song. Yeah, the Enterprise from the 60s. Oh, if it's the original kit, just one piece at a time, my dear. You'll get there. You will get there. And you've got crazy glue. They didn't have crazy glue in the 60s. They had airplane cement that, yeah, you had to walk around the house like Scott did. Unless you had a really fancy setup to hold pieces in place. And you could trust it. You could trust that your form for drying wasn't going to sag as well. Ah, Christoph. 2 tickets for DST Can't Now. The last DST is over. Hey, Christoph, did they announce that it was the last DST? Or is that just everybody assuming it? Or did one of the guys just say it? Did Mark or Jason say it without publishing it somewhere? You had captain packages with 001, 003, and 002. I think everything is collectible eventually. Sometimes it takes 20 years for the second generation to go, oh my God, because the first generation went, well, yeah. Yes. Hey, Starfleet boy. Starting to have some power outages here in Hurricane Land. Ooh, South Florida. So if you lose the interwebs and can't say thanks for the great stream, I'm saying it now. Well, thank you, Starfleet. See, I know you're under 40 because you call it a stream and not a show. Or a video blog. Remember when we had vlogs? Oh, the last 10 years have been amazing. Anyway, stay safe, man. You stay safe. Erector robots. Yes. Made a square box body and you put the discs on for eyes and yeah. And the wheels at the bottom for propulsion. Yes. And you had the little engine, the little motor. You had to plug it in. But oh, yes. Yes. I hope Brunt and the entire FCA misses you, Starfleet boy. Okay. Well, Melanie, take it easy. Oh, part 2 of Andy's TFF episode. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Yeah, it's a standalone. It's our second session. Here's a little secret. When we have multiple guests, when we have a guest on multiple times, they're all recorded at the same time. It's like game shows in the 60s. It's like why the Friday match in 70s, why the Friday match game was always the tipsiest. Because everybody had gone out for lunch and come back. Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, we had a late start today, Rose, so you take care. Absolutely. Yes, model cement, like testers. That's what it said, not airplane. Airplane glue was the old generic thing that they got rid of because all of a sudden the models people built weren't just airplanes. So you couldn't say airplane glue anymore. Model cement. Very testers of you, Melanie. Yep. You got to get out too. I'm running everybody into the power ground here. So, thank you, Marina. The DS2 organizer said there are no plans for further DST. Someone posted about it, but other events are in plans. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, they are free to do Creation Vegas type things. They're free to do unlicensed. And then, as far as the IP holder, the licensor wanting a licensed show, does that mean Reed Pop expands into Europe? Because Reed certainly does global worldwide shows. Thank you, Christoph. There's the. They want to do a hotel con that's not an official Trek con. Well, that's fun. Yay. There we go. And it's time check. Boom. I think this is indeed the end of the chat. Hey, everybody. Well, listen, thanks for being here for the unscheduled unboxing of Picard Season 2. I can't believe we have to wait so long in between these seasons. It's amazing, especially when the further modern Trek has gone, the Kurtzman era, the Secret Hideout, the further along this era has gone, the more is teased out about the seasons. So it feels like the wait is even longer than it would have been if there'd been zero teasers. I don't get that. That's a weird correlation. But yes, it's been awesome to see everybody today. Don't forget, find those old pictures, post those stories, find your model. If you don't have a model, but you've got a box, hey, all you guys and gals with the boxes in the garage, what a perfect time to go out and do that. If you missed, who knows? Maybe Glenn Swanson and the Cult TV Man crowd and all the model circle that are contributing to these history books about the AMT Star Trek models from Enterprise on down. Maybe there's still some late room for that. It's got me thinking I should go find my dang. I will post, if I don't have them here on the YouTube edit, I'll post some of my photos that I didn't get. I didn't dig out in time, just like many of you. But it's been fun. It's been fun to think about that. And again, the meta of this is, of all the items we think about as Star Trek merch, as Star Trek licensed items, how often does the little old Enterprise kit just totally fly under the radar? So that's why I love this whole campaign, to mark the history, get what's preserved out there and circulated, and remind people what a revolution that Enterprise model kit was, both within Star Trek and without. And how you can't help but smile the minute you see one or you see a model kit box. And the kid inside you, much less the uber over detailing, over pernicious perfectionist model builder adult, just can't help but smile and tackle and find all these great there's so many good Facebook groups of people who are just model builders, and that's their simplicity. It's like the cosplay. It really is like the cosplay community. And yeah, there's probably some inching going on somewhere, but it's just people doing it for the love of doing it. And they love showing off, but they also love seeing what everybody else is doing. And they just love the vibe, and they love that it's their way of celebrating the thing that they love. And in this case, it's Star Trek and Star Trek's ships and interiors even. And yes, Spock shooting the alien three-headed snake. Never made sense, but it was dramatic. Alrighty, everybody. Well, I was talking about the relationship. One more here, Christoph. I was talking about the relationship between Paramount and Showmasters, because Destination Star Trek was a partner license between Showmasters and the other people. And then after the first couple, the other people just kind of said, fine, you run with it. So that's what I meant. Oh, yes. Anybody else popping up to do an all Trek show might have to do a little bit of dance. And P Plus has to settle down first. Yeah. we've talked before about how they need to have everybody in-house needs to be on the same page before they look externally on lots of things. And that's exactly what we mean. So everybody, thanks so much for a little memory lane here and a little re-examining. Again, some clarity, sanity, and big picture about the venerable old, venerable, wonderful, ubiquitous, revolutionary Star Trek Enterprise model kit from AMT and current rights holders. So that's doing it for us. Once again, I want to thank everybody in our Patreon group. If you want to jump in, it's patreon.com/Tuesdays Live or Trekland Live. I've got to get new cards made. But thanks for all of our Patreon folk there. Thanks all of you who are joining us every week. The Trek Files is up again. Yes, with Andy Richardson back with us, or Andy Richardson Kindred back with us. It's an awesome visit. Talking about Gene Kuhn like no one else can, really. And if you are in Southern Arizona or Southern California, maybe take a trip this weekend over to UMaCon. It's a multi-genre. I'm representing Trek, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I guarantee you will not be standing in lines to get into rooms, even if they've got 1,000 people or so. It's pretty diverse. The local cosplay was wonderful. There's a really huge, really empowering youth element there. And the city puts it on, and there's things for kids and adults both. They did a great job last year. They've been at it for 5-6 years, and it's grown every year. Pandemic knocked them back too, like everybody else. And they're on the rebound. I will be going solo this year without John, but hopefully we'll all get back. Maybe they'll have us back again, and we'll see what next year goes. That's it. That is going to be it, everybody. I am Larry Nemechek on Twitter, and it's Larry Nemechek's Trekland. Please like and subscribe and share the YouTube as well as Instagram and Facebook. And we will see you around the socials, gang. Portal47.net. If you enjoy the way I go at Trek and what I bring to it and what I have yet to bring to it. Portales. Tomorrow night, for those of you still with me, we haven't nailed down a guest. I think I'm going to have to do the switcheroo week, and I think tomorrow night will be our regular roundtable for the America side of the Atlantic. Everybody's welcome to come. It's just 3 a.m. for the Europeans. That said, that's where I am, but you'll get an inbox and a post later on today. Gang, it was great to be with you for the Tuesday. We'll see what next week brings. We will see what another Lower Decks brings and the headlines. And until then, hey, I mean it when I say stay healthy, do all the things, stay woke, check the sources. Don't engage with somebody who is just a troll. Because don't let the trolls win. Yeah. Trek well, everybody. And hashtag Enterprise 55.